When did you know that the exit was on the horizon? At what point?
Yeah. When you raise venture capital, that's the inevitable end.
Yeah.
It's something that I don't think I fully realized and recognized at the time.
What were
Yeah.
you raising more money for? What did you need more money to do?
The business wasn't in the first two rounds, it wasn't profitable. Like there were months that it could be profitable, but you remember this is also like the time where there's all these like big venture backed businesses that are just spending after user acquisition. And so we certainly did that as well. We were pretty measured in the beginning because we didn't raise a giant round, but
Sorry, when
yeah.
you say, I just so everyone understands, the venture backed acquisition was to raise lots of money to just pay to bring on users, like for advertising
Yeah.
and bring on subscribers.
That's why we raised venture capital. Yeah. Is to grow.
Yeah.
Obviously with COVID, we got a really nice growth spurt. It like 4x the business in days. Like it was really, really wild. And then at a certain point, you have to start spending marketing dollars in order to continue to create that growth. And that's a really great trajectory when you're on it. But when things get really tricky from a paid marketing perspective, where there's larger macro issues, it gets very challenging. So we raised, in July of 21. And around that same time, a lot changed. So like the digital paid ecosystem changed. iOS 14 changed a lot, all the privacy implications from Apple. There were so many things that happened that influenced it. But when we raised that, we raised a $15 million round in our Series A and with a really, really high valuation. And it was because that was where things were valued at the time. But I think that started the clock on having to exit because the market sort of showed us later on that we wouldn't be able to raise at anywhere near the valuation that we had raised previously. And so venture capital can kind of like back you into a corner if you're not really careful. That happened certainly to us. And a couple of years ago, we got an incoming call about a company that was interested in acquiring us. And we went down the path and did the diligence. And once that happened, it just became clear that that was the path that we needed to go down. It feels like selling your child, like something that you have raised and cultivated and you love, and you've put like everything and your soul into it. And then you're selling it to someone with the hopes that they're going to be good stewards. And that's a really challenging thing for me, certainly to wrap my head around.
I think it's this sort of misconception that you do need to be quote unquote successful to bring in this venture capital to grow as big as possible. So many people, especially those not within that level of entrepreneurship world, don't even realize that even the companies going public at these evaluations, they can still be losing money every single day. Doesn't mean they're profitable, that they're actually earning that. It's that's the money that's been poured into it. And if you can bring investors on at a high valuation, the value of the company is on paper worth more, even if it's not necessarily in the bank account. Is there any part of you that would have just stuck with the 1.7 million and kept it small and intimate and maybe figured out a way to make it profitable without pouring money into acquisition, to just say, okay, we'll work really hard on affiliates, on referrals, and keep it super lean, keep it to 4 types of classes? Was that ever in the plans? No,
I think that we always had really big ideas of where it could go and the number of people that we could reach. And then when COVID hit, people were throwing money at us, and we didn't take money at the time, but knowing what I know now, and if I could do it all over again, I should have raised a really big round when COVID hit, like a really giant round, and like used that and then sold it a couple of years out. That probably would have been the best business outcome.
Do you think you waited too long to sell it?
Yeah. But it's sort of like what I was saying before. It's the dichotomy of building this business that is so purpose driven and there's so much of yourself in it. That's one idea and way of thinking and way of living. And then there's this other of like financial return. And how do you rectify those two? And what is the right strategy? And that was a hard thing for me to wrap my head around, / something I don't think I thought a lot about.
Yeah, that's always the question. I didn't realize that my approach to my business was almost the anomaly in building a successful business, but ensuring that it was profitable, that I was investing the net surplus, not to grow the business and make it as big as possible, but to grow my own life.
Right.
And I've never realized how rare it was. And no one really talks about the money side of their business or how it affects them personally, especially in the entrepreneurship community. It's so much about 10xing or making 8 figures or selling for 9 figures or 10 figures. At the end of the day, the founder doesn't walk away with 11 figures in their business because they sold for, I don't even know what that is,
Yeah.
100 million. So very rarely, I should say, it does happen,
Mhm.
but very rarely is that the end game truly of an exit. You
Right.
can have a massive exit, but what do you get to take home at the end of all of it?
Right. I think that a lot of it is also like recognizing and understanding the way that like venture backed companies work. So they don't need all of their businesses to be successful. They only need one to return the fund. And
Yeah.
so if you're that one, then that founder is probably going to do pretty well. If you're not that one, it's part of the VC strategy of like, we're going to invest in innovation. There's a lot of these investments that are not going to pay back. They're not going to do life changing well. And then you're going to have a Facebook, or you're going to have an Uber, or you're going to have something that like returns the fund in a really material way. I think it begs the question, and this is something I think that I would think about now. I just don't think I had the business acumen or the understanding to think about this when I started the business. But it's like, are you building a business because this is something that you need to put out into the world that you're super passionate about, and that's, again, purposeful and mission aligned? And like, what do you need to do to make that happen? And there are, in some cases, like you need to be venture backed and you just have to sign up knowing that that's the trajectory. And then maybe there's others, like it sounds like in your case, where you didn't have to have venture money. You were really disciplined. The growth at all costs was not kind of the prevailing attitude, and you made it like work for you, which I think that's a super powerful strategy and way of creating something.
I think it was the only way I could do it and sleep at night.
Mm-hmm.
Like strength or weakness.
Yeah.
I think that I just wouldn't have the capacity to have like board meetings or have to show someone my financials and explain why I was having quarterly craft afternoons with my team. I've never been great at answering to other people or necessarily being a great team player. But a part of me wonders, like, what could the impact have been had I been willing and daring enough? But at the end of the day, when I started going down the path of acquisition in 2019, I felt like I had someone sorting through my underwear drawer, and I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah. A lot of people who are founders that I meet, and I think they come to it maybe from a consulting background or like banking, whatever, they set out to like build a business that they're going to sell. And it's all about the outcome. For me, it wasn't that. And I didn't, that end of the business, I didn't love. It didn't feel intuitive. It didn't feel, it's a transaction, and there's a lot of competing interests and feels political.